She thought he was just another passenger. She thought she could snatch his first-class seat, roll her eyes, and remind him where she thought he belonged. But what she didn't know, what froze her blood cold, was when he looked her straight in the eye and said 6 words that would change everything. I own this entire airline. But this wasn't just about a seat. This was about power, prejudice, secrets, and a truth so shocking it would tear through the entire industry. The airport buzzed with the usual chaos, rolling suitcases, last-minute announcements, impatient sighs. At gate C-47, tension crackled like static as first-class passengers lined up to board. That's when it happened. A tall black man in a tailored Navy suit stepped forward, his boarding pass in hand. Calm, confident, professional. The kind of man who looked like he belonged anywhere he walked. But before he could enter, a white woman in designer sunglasses shoved past him, flashing her ticket. "That's my seat," she snapped, her voice sharp, dripping with entitlement. He blinked, glanced at his ticket, then at hers. "Ma'am, I believe you're mistaken. 1A is my seat." She smirked, tilting her chin high. "I don't think so. People like you don't sit in 1A." Gasps rippled through the boarding line. The gate attendant's smile froze, caught between professionalism and the awkward weight of the moment. The man's eyes darkened, but he didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply said, calm and deliberate, "Check again." The attendant scanned both tickets, then frowned. "This is odd," she muttered. "Both tickets say 1A. The line buzzed louder. How could there be 2 tickets for the same seat? The woman crossed her arms, smug. "See? I told you. He probably printed a fake one. Happens all the time." The man said nothing. He just studied her, then the attendant, with an expression that was unreadable, like he was measuring them both. The attendant shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, can I see your ID?" He handed it over without hesitation. The attendant's eyes flicked across the name. Her face paled. Something about the way her hand trembled as she returned it wasn't lost on him. She cleared her throat. Everything appears to be in order." The woman rolled her eyes. "So what? You're really going to let him sit in first class?" The attendant swallowed. "Yes, because he's not just a passenger." The man finally spoke, his voice calm but cutting through the noise like a blade. "Ma'am, I own this airline." For the first time, the woman faltered. The smirk melted. The sunglasses slipped down her nose. "You what?" she whispered. The passengers behind her craned their necks. Whispers erupted. Phones came out, recording. The man didn't repeat himself. He simply stepped past her, boarding pass still in hand, and walked onto the jet bridge as if nothing more needed to be said. The crowd parted for him like water. The woman stood frozen in the middle of the gate, her face burning, her confidence collapsing. She had picked the wrong man to humiliate. But what nobody knew, what none of those cell phone cameras could capture, was that this was just the beginning of a storm. On board, first-class passengers whispered among themselves. Some clutched phones, scrolling furiously, trying to verify what they had just heard. And sure enough, his face popped up on business news articles, Forbes lists, and corporate press releases. Derrick Cole, CEO of Skyrise Airlines. Billionaire, self-made, decorated veteran. The woman paled when she saw the headlines. She tried to laugh it off, whispering to another passenger, "He probably bought the airline with dirty money. People like that always have something to hide." But her words caught the attention of a man across the aisle, a man with steel gray eyes and a scar along his jawline. He smirked, almost amused, before pulling out his phone and sending a single text. "He's on board. Proceed as planned." As the plane lifted off, Derrick Cole reclined, expression calm, but his mind sharp. He noticed everything. The way the scarred man kept watching him. The way the woman who had stolen his seat now avoided his gaze, fidgeting nervously. The way the flight attendants whispered behind the curtain. Something wasn't right. But then again, Derrick Cole knew better than anyone. Things are never what they seem, because Derrick's success hadn't come easy. He had clawed his way up from nothing, born into poverty, underestimated at every turn, mocked for dreaming too big. But the Navy SEALs had taught him discipline. Business had taught him patience. And betrayal had taught him to never let his guard down. So when the seatbelt light flickered, not from turbulence, but from someone manually switching it on and off, Derrick knew. This flight wasn't just about flying. Someone wanted him here. An hour into the flight, chaos erupted. The scarred man rose suddenly, lunging toward the cockpit. Passengers screamed. The woman who had tried to steal Derrick's seat shrieked. What's happening? But Derrick was already moving. In one fluid motion, he was out of his seat, intercepting the man, locking his arm behind his back with precision only a SEAL could execute. The man hissed in his ear. You should have stayed in your office, Mr. Cole. Up here, we own the sky. Derrick's grip tightened. Not today. But as he forced the man down, something else caught his eye. Something far more chilling. The woman. She wasn't screaming anymore. She was smiling, and in her hand, tucked just beneath her designer purse, was a small device blinking red, a detonator. The cabin froze. Derrick's heart pounded. The scarred man laughed bitterly, even as Derrick pinned him to floor. You thought this was about a seat? The scarred man snarled. This was always about you. The woman leaned forward, her smile venomous, her finger hovering over the trigger. Ladies and gentlemen, she said sweetly, her voice carrying over the screams, this flight ends differently than you planned. Derrick locked eyes with her, his mind racing. He had faced death before, but never like this. Not trapped 30,000 feet in the air, with hundreds of lives hanging by a thread. The plane jolted violently. Alarms blared, and as the passengers screamed, the screen fades to black with bold white letters. The plane was no longer just a flight. It was a trap. The woman who mocked him, the scarred man he pinned, the blinking red light in her hand. This was no accident. This was a setup. And Derrick Cole, billionaire CEO and former SEAL, had just realized the most terrifying truth of all. They weren't trying to steal his airline. They were trying to destroy him. The cabin erupted in screams. Flight attendants froze. Children cried. The red light on the device pulsed like a heartbeat of doom. Sit down, the woman shouted, her voice sharp and commanding now. Gone was the fake entitlement. Gone was the performance. In its place was something far more dangerous, control. Passengers ducked, hands over heads, some praying. Derrick's grip tightened on the scarred man's wrist. Who sent you? He growled. The man's lips curled into a grin. Same people who sent her. The woman's finger hovered over the trigger. Let him go, Mr. Cole, or I press this, and no one leaves the sky alive. Derrick's mind raced. A SEAL never yielded, never surrendered. But now it wasn't just his life, it was every soul on board. Slowly, he released the scarred man, muscles coiled, every instinct screaming not to. The man stood, rubbing his wrist, smirking. Smart choice. The woman slid into 1A, the seat she had fought so hard to steal. Earlier. Now we can talk business. She placed the device carefully on the tray table, the red light glaring like an eye. You think you built Skyrise Airlines on grit, hustle, and a few lucky deals, she said, her voice dripping with venom. You think you pulled yourself up, Derrick Cole? Wrong. You've been protected, shielded, because the people who really own the skies let you. Derrick's jaw tightened. And who are you supposed to be? Her smile was razor sharp. The reminder that you're not untouchable. The scarred man leaned close. Your airline isn't yours anymore. It never was. And after tonight, the world will know that Derrick Cole was nothing but a puppet. As the passengers cowered, Derrick's mind drifted back to when he was a boy growing up in Detroit, raised by a mother who worked double shifts, mocked by classmates who said kids like him never made it out. He had enlisted in the Navy at 18, desperate to prove them wrong. SEAL training nearly broke him, but it also built him. Discipline, endurance, survival under pressure. Years later, he had walked away, built Skyrise Airlines on the ashes of bankrupt carriers, fought tooth and nail to prove that a black man could not only enter the industry, but dominate it. Every contract, every deal, every sleepless night had been war. But hearing the woman's words now made his blood run cold. Had it all been rigged? The woman leaned forward, her sunglasses now off, revealing eyes cold as ice. You have a document in your files, a contract you refuse to sign. Tonight, you'll sign it. You'll hand Skyrise over to us, or this plane becomes your tomb. Passengers gasped. Phones trembled in hands. Every eye turned to Derrick. Derrick's voice was low, deadly calm. You're bluffing. She slid the detonator closer. Try me. Suddenly, a voice came crackling over the intercom. Not the captain, not a flight attendant. It was a stranger. Male, cold, precise. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not your pilot speaking. Your captain is indisposed. From now on, your flight is under our control. Gas erupted. The cockpit door opened. 2 more men stepped out, armed, faces masked. One held the captain at gunpoint. The woman smiled sweetly at Derrick. Still think I'm bluffing? Every nerve in Derrick's body screamed for action. He couldn't let fear win, not now, not with lives at stake. In a blur, he lunged to the detonator, knocking it from the tray. It skidded across the aisle, passengers shrieking. The scarred man swung. Derrick blocked, countered with a crushing elbow to the ribs. They grappled, slamming into seats, fists flying. The woman screamed, scrambling for the detonator. A passenger kicked it away. Chaos exploded. And then, one of the flight attendants, a young woman with trembling hands, scooped up the detonator. For a second, Derrick thought she was helping, but then she turned and handed it back to the scarred man. The passengers gasped. Derrick's chest tightened. Betrayal. The scarred man grinned, lifting the device high. Round 2, Mr. Cole. Let's see if you're still the hero you think you are. They thought they had him cornered. A hijacked plane, a detonator flashing red, passengers screaming, betrayal in the air. But Derrick Cole wasn't just a CEO. He wasn't just a former SEAL. He was a man who had built an empire from nothing. And he wasn't about to let anyone take it away. The plane shuddered violently, oxygen masks rattling. Passengers screamed as turbulence ripped through the cabin. Drinks spilled. Bags fell from overhead compartments. The scarred man tightened his grip on the detonator. His finger hovered over the button. Next move is your last, Cole. But Derrick didn't flinch. His voice was low, calm, controlled. You push that button, you don't walk away alive. The scarred man smirked. Neither do you. And in that moment, Derrick knew the man wasn't bluffing. He was willing to die, which meant someone else was pulling the strings. The woman in 1A adjusted her jacket. Cool as ice. Mr. Cole, let's not drag this out. Sign the transfer of ownership. Do it, and maybe these people live. Her words cut like glass. The passengers stared at Derrick with wide, desperate eyes. Some whispered prayers. Some cursed him under their breath. Derrick clenched his jaw. He wouldn't let innocent lives pay the price. But he also wouldn't hand over the company he had bled for without a fight. He narrowed his eyes. You've planned this for months. But there's one thing you didn't plan for. The woman leaned forward. And what's that? Derrick's voice dropped, deadly quiet. Me. For a split second, Derrick's mind flashed back to a memory he rarely let surface. His time on a covert SEAL assignment, deep in hostile territory. A mission no one ever spoke of. A mission that wasn't in the record books. He remembered the scarred man, not as an enemy combatant, not as a stranger, but as a fellow soldier. His blood ran cold. This wasn't just a random hijacking. This was personal. You, Derrick growled, locking eyes with the scarred man. Fallujah, night raid. You weren't supposed to walk away. The scarred man's grin widened. And yet here I am, while your government wrote me off. While you went home a hero and I went home in chains. Gasps filled the cabin. The woman smirked. Now do you understand, Mr. Cole? This isn't just business. This is revenge. The scarred man raised the detonator higher, his hand trembling with rage. And I'm going to watch you burn, Cole. Just like we burned that night. Derrick's chest tightened. His past was bleeding into his present. And now, 200 lives hung in the balance. The woman gestured to a flight attendant with a laptop. Mr. Cole, the contract is ready. Sign it, and maybe this ghost from your past spares you. The laptop glowed, the digital document waiting. Derrick stared at it, his reflection in the screen. Sweat dripped down his temple. Sign and lose everything he fought for. Refuse and risk everyone dying. He needed another play. Fast. Then a voice whispered near his ear. A passenger in the row behind him. A young black man in a hoodie, his eyes sharp, voice steady. "Mr. Cole, I know you don't know me, but I know you." Derrick turned slightly, frowning. "Now's not the time." The man leaned closer. "I hacked your airline 3 years ago. I was the one who tried to warn you that someone was infiltrating your systems. You ignored me, but I can shut this down if you get me to that laptop." Derrick's pulse quickened. Could this stranger be trusted, or was this another trap? But looking into the young man's eyes, Derrick saw something he hadn't seen in anyone else on this plane. Determination. Derrick stood, slowly, deliberately, all eyes locked on him. "You want me to sign? Fine. Let's finish this." He walked toward the laptop. The scarred man's gaze never left him. The woman smirked, victory glinting in her eyes. But as Derrick reached for the laptop, his hand shifted, just slightly, enough for the young man in the hoodie to catch the signal. Derrick wasn't surrendering. He was setting the trap. In a flash, Derrick slammed the laptop shut, grabbing it and swinging it like a weapon into the scarred man's wrist. The detonator flew into the air. Chaos erupted. Passengers screamed. The young man in the hoodie lunged, catching the detonator midair. The scarred man roared, charging forward. Derrick met him head-on, fists colliding, the fight raw and brutal. The woman dove for the detonator, but the young man was faster, shoving it into his backpack, out of her reach. Just as it seemed Derrick had the upper hand, the intercom crackled again, the same cold, precise voice from earlier. "You've interfered enough, Mr. Cole. You think this is about a single plane? About a single airline? You still don't get it. This is much bigger than you." The scarred man, blood dripping from his mouth, grinned through the pain. "You'll never see it coming, Cole. By the time you land, if you land, it'll already be over." They wanted to erase him. They wanted his airline, his legacy, his life. But Derrick Cole had survived wars. He had built empires from dust. And if this was the battle for his soul, then the sky itself would remember his name. The plane pitched downward, alarms blaring, lights flickering. Passengers screamed, clutching each other, praying out loud. Oxygen masks dropped, swinging violently. Derrick's knuckles were white as he gripped the seat back. His most trusted ally, Elias, head of security, was standing there, bound but smirking, revealing the truth with his silence. The woman in 1A calmly buckled her belt, as if she knew the turbulence was scripted. "Relax, Mr. Cole. This descent, just a warning. The rail drop comes later." The scarred man, breathing heavy from the fight, chuckled darkly. "You thought you had allies, but even your shadow works for us." Derrick stormed forward, grabbing Elias by the collar, shaking him hard. "Why? After everything? Why betray me?" Elias smirked, blood dripping from his lip. "Because loyalty doesn't pay like they do." Derrick's fist clenched. He wanted to crush him right there. But he stopped. Elias wasn't just a traitor. He was a key. He knew too much. The woman crossed her legs, voice smooth as venom. "Your problem, Derrick, is you think survival is about muscle, about grit. Wrong. It's about leverage. And tonight we hold all of it." The young man in the hoodie, still clutching his backpack with the detonator inside, spoke up. "She's lying. This isn't leverage. This is desperation." Everyone turned. The hacker's eyes burned. "I've been inside your system for months. Whoever you work for, they've been bleeding Derrick's airline dry, pulling strings, planting worms. And now they're trying to finish it in the open. But I can stop them, if he trusts me." Derrick studied him. The passengers looked hopeful, hanging on his words. The woman laughed bitterly. "A street rat hacker? Please, do you even know who you're talking to?" The hacker's voice was steady. "Yes, I'm talking to ghosts. And ghosts don't scare me." The intercom hissed again. The same cold, precise voice cut through the cabin. "Mr. Cole, you've been difficult as expected. But don't fool yourself. Skyrise Airlines was never yours to keep. You've been flying on borrowed wings. We are the Syndicate. We own the routes, the skies, the deals. We decide who rises and who crashes. And tonight, Derrick Cole crashes. Gasps rippled through the passengers. The Syndicate. Whispers have floated for years. An invisible cartel controlling global aviation, crushing competitors, deciding which airlines thrived or died. Derrick's eyes narrowed. So it was true. He hadn't just built against odds. He had been building against giants. The scarred man wiped blood from his mouth, grinning. We don't even need this plane to go down. But imagine the headlines. Black CEO takes 200 lives with him. You'll be remembered not as a builder, but as a destroyer. Derrick's voice thundered. Not if I bury you first. In a blur, he lunged again. The two men clashed violently, fists and elbows cracking, slamming into seatbacks, passengers ducking and screaming. The woman reached for her jacket pocket, pulling something small, metallic. Another detonator? But the hacker was ready. He lunged from behind, tackling her, the device skidding under the seats. The cockpit door burst open again. This time, the masked pilot shouted, "Fuel's dropping. We can't hold altitude." Someone sabotaged the tanks. Everyone froze. The Syndicate's plan wasn't just a hijacking. It was a full execution. Even if Derrick surrendered, the plane was going down. The hacker yelled, "Give me the laptop. I can reroute the system, force an emergency override." The woman snarled, "You trust him. You doom us all." Elias laughed bitterly. "You think Cole can fight gravity?" Derrick stood in the aisle, chest heaving, sweat dripping. He had two choices. Trust the hacker, gamble on an override, or fight the hijackers physically. Hope to reclaim the cockpit in time. Every second counted. Derrick locked eyes with the hacker. Saw not arrogance, but belief. Saw himself, years ago, when no one believed he could make it. He tossed him the laptop. "Do it." The hacker's fingers flew, typing at lightning speed. Code spilling across the screen. The cabin lights flickered as he fought the Syndicate's digital chokehold. Meanwhile, Derrick turned to Elias and the scarred man. "You wanted a war in the skies? You got one." The scarred man charged. Derrick met him head-on. The two collided in the narrow aisle, fists thundering, blood flying. Seats cracked, windows rattled. Derrick's training surged back. Precision strikes, survival tactics, everything the SEALs had burned into him. But the scarred man was relentless, fueled by rage and revenge. Elias grabbed a broken tray table, swinging it like a weapon, trying to blindside Derrick. Derrick ducked, countered with a savage kick, sending Elias sprawling across the aisle. The passengers roared encouragement, hope sparking again. Meanwhile, the hackers screamed flash warnings. They've got layers on layers, firewalls, kill switches. The woman screamed, lunging for him. Stop him. He shoved her back with surprising strength, fingers never slowing. Almost there, just need 10 more seconds. The intercom voice snarled, cut him off. Now! The scarred man broke from the fight, lunging toward the hacker. Derrick grabbed him mid-stride, locking him in a chokehold, veins bulging, straining with everything he had. The laptop pinged. The hacker shouted, "Override complete. Engine stabilizing. Fuel rerouted from backup tanks." The plane leveled. Oxygen masks swayed gently as the cabin steadied. A collective gasp of relief rippled through the passengers. But Derrick knew better. The Syndicate wouldn't stop here. The scarred man, gasping in Derrick's chokehold, rasped one final warning. "You think you won? You just painted a target on your back. The Syndicate doesn't lose. And now they know your weakness." His body went limp. Derrick let him drop to the floor. The woman was restrained, her venomous eyes still burning with hate. Elias lay unconscious, his betrayal etched into his face. The hacker closed the laptop, breathing hard. For now, we're safe. Passengers clapped, cried, hugged. Relief washed through the cabin. But Derrick didn't celebrate. His gaze was fixed out the window, beyond the clouds. Because he knew this was just the beginning. The captain, bloody but alive, finally stumbled out of the cockpit. Mr. Cole, we're clear. We're heading to New York. You saved us. Kindly support our channel. Like, comment, and subscribe for more interesting and powerful stories.